Hello, hello. Good evening, everyone. How is it going? This is Eunice Tan coming live from Singapore. If you can hear me, type loud and clear in the chat box. Let me check my. Great. Audio is working fine. Hello, everyone. My name is Eunice Tan. I'm an entrepreneur, speaker, and founder of Daily People Skills and business JPS Consultancy, a business boutique consultancy firm, right? And this channel on Daily People Skills, we share about tips on dealing with people, dealing with yourself, and all. So let us know where you are watching this from. Are you watching from Singapore, or are you watching from overseas? Right? If you're watching from overseas, where are you watching from? Which country, which city? What's the time zone over there? Say hi to us. We would like to hear some noise. Yeah, go ahead and make some noise. We'll definitely welcome that. Yes? Right. Great. So so we share. I founded Daily People Skills, a YouTube channel, and this year I started this channel to share about tips on people skills. Now, a lot of people think that people skills is about EQ, communication skills, and leadership skills. All these are great, right? And it encompasses all this as well. But I think people skills go much beyond that. And at the end of the day, it's about who you really are. Because before you can start to manage others, you must first manage yourself. And so that's the underlying principle whereby I founded this YouTube channel, right? So I like to start my class on my lesson on my sharing on times, and so let's get started, right? And today's topic is on courage. How many of you can do with more courage? Type it in the chat box. Type courage in the chat box, in the comments box. Let us know. Right. Have you ever wondered why is it that some people seem so fearless and just went straight ahead with whatever they want to do and not worry about anything? Or do they? Were you once upon a time someone who is so daring and not afraid of making mistakes, but not anymore? What happened? Look at children, look at youngsters, right? They are bold and they think the world is their oysters. And once upon a time, you and me were like that too, right? But what happened to us now? Right, so that's what we're going to explore today. What is the meaning of courage? Some of the misconceptions of courage. What is courage all about? What are we actually afraid of? Why are we afraid? And some examples of courage. And courage comes in different shapes and forms in our daily life. This is so important. And of course, some quick tips, right? So let's get started right now for today, right? Let me share my slides. More. Okay. Now, first and foremost, what is the meaning of courage, right? And a lot of people have come up with different kind of different meanings to courage. And while I was putting this slide in place, right, and I found some very interesting definition of courage, how people interpret it, and just let me share some of this interpretation or definitions. Yeah, right. One of it is the ability to do something that frightens a person. And the other one I found is the strength in the face of pain or grief. And another one said that is the quality of mind or spirit that enables a person to face difficulty, danger, pain, etc. without fear. And one last one is the mental or moral strength to venture, to persevere and withstand danger, fear, and or difficulty. Right. So if you notice all these four so-called definitions, right, they all deal with fears. They deal with pain. They always mention about difficulty, danger, and sometimes and one of it mentioned about grief. So what is it about courage? So a lot of people think that courage is that I am not afraid, but actually that is so not true, right? So we have over the years of growing up, especially, we have some misconception of courage. It could be coming from our family background with all good intentions, with friends, with personal experiences, and our culture and how we expose to different kind of news and experiences, and how we interpret them, how we give meaning to all those experiences, right? So let's explore some of the misconception of courage, right? First and foremost, courage is not the absence of fear, right? Rather, and we talk about what is it about then, right? It's really not it's not the absence of fear, right? And it's not courageous. It's not that courageous people don't feel fear, but that they are able to control their fear so that it does not stop them from taking action. Let me repeat that. One of the misconceptions is courageous people don't feel fear, but it's not that. It's rather they are able to control their fear so that it does not stop them from taking action. See the difference? Next. Courage and being brave is just about charge, right? Courage and being brave is not about charging forward blindly with mere brute force, but you process the situation and you do it anyway. And what else? What other misconception about courage? Let's see, right? Courage is not about being loud, right? Some of the misconception is of courage is about being loud, but it's not. It's not about being loud. And although very often it's about being heard, right? And in fact, sometimes courage is about that. Sometimes it can become a small package as well. Now, I want to share this. Courage doesn't always roar. Somehow courage is, but sometimes courage is the little voice at the end of the day that says, I'll try again tomorrow. And this is actually quoted from this lady called Marianne Radmacher. I hope I got your name correct, Miss Mary. Right? She's a writer, she's an artist, she's a trainer and a speaker and an authority on courage, I would say, because a lot of her writings are actually talking about courage. So I encourage all of you to go and check her out, right? Okay, no endorsement, okay? It's purely someone I came across and I think it's really great reading. Right, next, something else I want to share. Hang on. Okay, another quote. It's not about the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. Have you ever seen a little dog that has such fighting spirit? And some of you are so small, and even like children, right? They're small, but they have this fighting spirit in them that is so admirable. That is so, we really respect that kind of fighting spirit. And who said this? It's actually Mark Twain, the author of The Adventures of Tom Sawyer. Right? It's really about the fighting spirit in each and every one of us. And in every one of us, you and me included, there is such a spirit in us, the fighting spirit in us, and that we just we act in spite of the fear. That is the main gist of it, right? Now, what is courage about then? We have talked about what is the meaning of courage, what is the misconception. So what is courage all about? It's about how you respond to fear or adversity, right? And I found this in Psychology Today, a website, and it says this, right? They put it so beautifully that I have to share this. They put it this way: it's feeling fear yet choosing to act. So that's why we tell you that I was sharing with you earlier on that courageous people, it's not that they don't feel fear, it's just that they act in spite of the fear, right? And honestly, my opinion on courage is about that fear and courage are actually two sides of the same coin. You cannot have courage without feeling some kind of fear, because what's courage then? If you have nothing to fear, then there's no courage about it, right? Think about it, let that sink in for a little while. And I think courage is also persevering in the face of adversity, meaning that you are, even though you are facing such adversity, you still persevere, and that is really true courage. Right? We'll look at some example of it later on, right? So let us see, what are we afraid of? Okay, I let some of the secret up. Okay, so think of something that you have always wanted to do, but you're too afraid to do it for whatever reasons. If you have one of these fears, right, there's about 30% chance of you not doing it. If you have two of these fears, that I'm going to talk about, there's about 60% chance of you not doing it. And you have all three, there's a 90% chance you won't do it, right? So let's take a look at what are we afraid of, which I have already shown one of them, but let's see. Right, the first one is actually I want to talk about is fear of abandonment, right? And might as well show you the rest, right? So, and the second one is fear of embarrassment, and the third one is fear of losing control. Now, we'll talk about all these three as a whole. Now, as I mentioned, right, if you have one of these fear, there's a 30% chance that you won't do whatever it is that you want to do. If you have two, the chances of you not doing it go up to 60, and you have all three, the chances of you is 90. In fact, I would probably say 99%. Right? So we have this fear of abandonment that, people will leave us. I know I have such a very big fear. I'm really afraid to be the last person to leave the shop. I was last time when I was studying in UK, I was working part-time in supermarket, and then to pay for my fees, and then sometimes I have to be the last one to leave the store to do a little bit of locking up, and it's just so scary. I don't like to be the last one. It's just I feel that everybody has abandoned me. I'm the last one in the world, that kind of stuff. It really scares me, right? And second one, on terms of fear of embarrassment, this is such a big one. It's so common that I probably don't have to explain much on this. It's just so self-explanatory, and that is one of the fear whereby because of this, a lot of people don't go for things like public speaking, even though they would want to do it, even though they really see the benefits of them doing it, but they still will not do it because of this fear. And the last one is fear of losing control. Now, losing control, what do I mean by losing control? It's just, if I do something, so for example, you have even simple things like height phobia. Why? When you stand on a certain height, you find that you can't, like, I have some height phobia, right? And what I feel is that I lost control of my body, and I will fall over the bridge anytime. Right? And I just feel that I cannot lose. I just cannot control myself. And sometimes I will imagine the bridge falling down and falling apart. And the same fear when I go on a cruise, when you go by the side, I'm so afraid that I will fall overboard, and that's it. Nobody can find me, right? There's a lot of this the fear of losing control is really, really intense, right? So if you have these three fear, right? And I know sometimes we mention about like, fear of cockroaches, lizards, and all that. I'm not really talking about that, but one of them, I'm talking about more emotional fears, more underlying fears, which on the surface, right, we may be afraid of some other things. We may be afraid, and we say that, I don't have the techniques to do public speaking. I don't have this, I don't have that. But at the end of the day, if you scrape away all this external on the superficial level of what excuses, if you look at it, it's usually fall under one of these three that we are really afraid of, right? And the thing is that why are we afraid of this, right? Why are we afraid? Now, I attended a lot of personal development courses for over the last 10 years and spent nearly 6 digits of tuition fees, and it's money well spent, right? I've learned a lot about myself, and that's why I use some of the techniques, and I still use some of the techniques to propel me forward and to act in spite of fear, right? And one of the biggest takeaway I want to share today is actually from Tony Robbins. Okay, the number one life coach in the world, and I think he's doing his virtual unlimited Unleash Your Power Within. Such an amazing course, you all should go, right? And in his course, right, he shared about the two underlying reasons why we are afraid. Okay, and when I learned about these two, it just blew my mind away, because at the end of the day, you can say whatever you want. It just boils down to these two reasons why are we afraid, right? Which I think I'm going to just share with you both, right? Now, the first reason is actually the fear of not enough, right? At the end of the day, we always have this fear of not enough, either not good enough, either I'm not I can be I'm not good enough. That's the big one. Okay, it's always I'm not good enough. And but of course you can see other things. I'm not eloquent enough. I'm not experienced enough. I'm not old enough. I'm not young enough. I'm not loved. I'm not what do you call that? Experienced enough. I don't have enough context and connections, right? So at the end of the day, is why are we afraid? Because we are afraid that we are always not enough, right? You can say whatever you want. It always boils down to this to one or these two reasons, and sometimes both, right? The other reason why are we afraid is that we are afraid that we may not be loved. We won't be loved if we do certain things, right? So these are the two main reasons that we will do certain things. And so we become people pleaser, we become that we stop in our tracks. There are certain things we don't want to do. For example, when especially in the Asian culture, we are our parents like to say that go and be a lawyer, be a doctor, that kind of stuff, and so you have a bright future. And if deep inside youngsters have a desire, I know a lot of my friends have passion for arts, but arts is hard to make a living, right? So they decided to go with the mainstream choices or the parents' choices, because at the end of the day, yes, fear of future, yeah, but at the end of the day, there is still this a fear of a reason of I won't be loved, and that's why they make those decisions. So recall some of the things that you have been wanting to do, but you are too afraid to do it, right? It's usually one of these two reasons. That's stopping you from doing whatever that you want to do, right? And after that, it come in different shapes and forms. Come in different kind of excuses and reasons why you cannot do it, right? But at the end, underlying is boils down to these two reasons, right? So let's see some of the examples of courage, right? Okay, right. My slides a little bit issue today. Let's see, right? So I have a few examples I want to share today on the examples of courage, because they really show different kinds of courage, right? So I want to show you really some examples, because we talk about what courage is, but let's see some examples. Right, first one is Nelson Mandela. Now, Nelson, what's so courageous about him? Right, he has the courage to fight against the unjust system of the justice system, and for his political activities, he was sentenced to 20 years in prison, but he was released to lead a free South Africa. So it was a time when can you imagine spending 20 years in prison, for something that you actually he didn't do anything wrong, right? It's for something that you stand up for, that you believe in. Are you willing to do that? And many people see him as someone who is really courageous. I do, because can you imagine that? And yet he's doing it for his people, right? And millions of people whom actually strangers to him. It's not surprising when we do something for our loved ones, for our family. It's not like, in a way, no big deal compared to doing something for people you don't know, strangers. Can you imagine that? Would you do it? I probably won't, right? But he has the courage to stand up against a bigger force than he is, and he was just went ahead and do it and went against the current the system then, right? And of course, the second one, which you have seen now, is Winston Churchill, right? In 1940, Britain stood alone against Nazi Germany. Some in Britain wanted to seek a deal with Hitler, but Churchill wanted to fight on. And he inspired Britain through their darkest hours. The man who had the guts to stare down Hitler and save the world from Nazi domination. Imagine if he had not done so. This world would be so different. You and me will be in a very different world now, right? Probably I won't have, as a woman, maybe I won't have a good education by now, right? It's not, I don't have a fair opportunity to seek a career, do whatever it is that I want to do. So there are many, many things. And, our lifestyle would definitely be different. This would definitely be different, right? A lot of people say that, he want to talk about his famous quote of "never give up." But when I did more research, I realized that actually the actual speech is "never give in." Right, and it's really, really interesting. Go and look up for it, right? And in fact, he has an amazing story. Yes, right. The third one I want to share is Nick Vujicic. Right, and you know this guy, right? The guy with no limbs, no hands, no legs, no limits, right? And he was born this way, and he's now a sought after speaker. I have the privilege to meet him and even give him a hug and took a photo with him. And you know what? His speaking engagement is a 2 year waiting list, and his speaking fee is a five-figure sum. And he went on to live an amazing, more than normal life, right? He did skydive, he did diving, on ocean dive, on the what do you call that, surfing and all. Beautiful wife, and I believe he has 4 kids now. Amazing, amazing guy. Now he was a janitor at his a janitor at his high school inspired him to start speaking publicly about overcoming adversity. So Nick started speaking to small groups of students when he was 17. Do you know he knocked 52 times before one school finally accepted him? He just keep calling until when he was so used to getting the no's, right, the NOs, and then he was sharing during the seminar that I attended, and to hear him, he was just sharing that he was so used to hearing the word NO that when on the fifth on the finally when he heard the first time YES, and he was like, okay, thank you, and his natural reaction was, okay, thank you, and he nearly put the phone down, and then he realized he got a yes right after 52 times. And he was just so amazing that, and you know, the rest is history. So he has the courage, you know, despite his appearance, which, you know, a lot of people would say that it's impossible, but he just went for it anyway. Now you guys might have noticed it seems to be all guys. Don't worry, we have the ladies coming up. Okay, right? Oprah Winfrey, definitely one on the list, right? And she was molested. Do you know that she was molested during her childhood and early teens and became pregnant at 14? Her son was born prematurely and died in her infancy. And she was told when she started to do all these TV appearance, right? She was told she was not TV material, and he was not, and he's now dubbed the Queen of Media. So can you imagine that? Just, you know, she has overcome such adversity, and such really things that were going against her, and she was born in an era whereby a lot of things were against ladies. And hold on. Right. So excuse me. I get very excited when I talk about all these ladies overcoming adversities, because they are just so admirable and they are such inspiration to me, and they are so courageous, because during a time where an era where women were suppressed, were not given opportunities, and you know, her skin color is not exactly to her favor at that point of time. Okay, I'm not racist, don't write to me. Okay, but you cannot deny that. And we talk about her appearance. In fact, she herself talked about it. She had, you know, outwardly she has nothing that is favorable to her, yet she didn't let it stop her, and she was courageous enough to go after what she wants. And you know, the rest is history. And you know, she's a well-known household name now. And the second one you can see now is actually J.K. Rowling. Now, J.K. Rowling, the author of Harry Potter, she's conceived the idea for the Harry Potter series while on a delayed train from Manchester to London in 1990. Right, the 7 year period that followed, right? The book did not publish it immediately. There was a 7 year delay, right, and gap. The 7 year period that followed saw the death of her mother, the birth of her first child, divorce from her first husband, and relative poverty until the first novel in the series came out, and she was living on government benefits. Right, and a lot of people say that she's not going to make it, and I believe there was a movie about her journey, and and she was just so what you call she just she really almost didn't make it, but she just hang on to it, and she just went for it anyway, because she believed firmly this is going to be a great hit, and she just nothing stops her. Did she feel like giving up? Yes, actually, during many of her interviews, she did say, you know, in one way or another, she thought of giving up, and but she didn't in the end. You know, just the thing is that all these heroes and heroines, we, you know, at some point we have our own doubts, we have our own fears, and we wonder should we throw in the towel, but none of them did, and that's why we have, you know, thanks to them, we have what we have today. Now, the third lady I want to share about is Florence Nightingale, right? Florence Nightingale, known as the Lady with the Lamp, was a British nurse, and she's a social reformer and statistician, best known as the founder of modern nursing. Her experiences as a nurse during the war were fundamental in her views about sanitation. And she went on to establish the St. Thomas Hospital and the Nightingale Training School for Nurses in 1860. Her efforts to reform healthcare generally influenced the quality of care in the 19th and 20th century. She was supposed to just marry a man. She was not supposed to find a job, not to mention being a nurse, right? Florence Nightingale, she was born in 1820 and she passed on in 1910, right? It's again an era that is, you know, the woman was suppressed and all, and she was just supposed to just marry a man. It's the norm then, right? But she went against the norm because she has such a great heart, she's such a big heart and such compassion that she just went for it because she knows she can contribute to humankind, right? Like before you say, oh, these people are the great stuff, great people, celebrity, I can match up, you know. No, I'm not talking about that kind of courage. We will see someone closer to home, right? Closer to Singapore home at least. And also we'll talk about your courage in your daily life. So hang in there, right? Yes, our very dear Joseph Isaac Schooling, our dear Singaporean swimmer, Olympian, and yeah, for some of you who don't know him, he was 13 when he met his idol, Michael Phelps. Okay, many of you know Michael Phelps, right? He's the multi Olympian awards winner, champion, right? And Joseph Schooling was 13 when he met his idol, Michael Phelps. If you can see, that is in the middle picture, that is him, the last picture on the right is when he was young. Yeah, can you see the little boy is him, right? He met him at the 2008 Beijing Olympics. Not only did he manage to, and he had a dream then to beat him, right? And the thing is that 8 years later, not only he managed to achieve his impossible dream in 2016, he beat Michael Phelps in the 2016 Olympics. He also set a new Olympic Games record for the 100-meter butterfly at 50.39 seconds, an astounding 0.75 seconds ahead of Phelps. Joseph was only 21 years old when he brought home the first gold medal ever in swimming for Singapore, in the Olympic Games Rio 2016, right? Certainly, most would know him as a swimmer that beat his own childhood hero, the most decorated athlete in Olympic history, Michael Phelps. Now, second place for the silver medal at that point was a three-way tie between Michael Phelps, South Africa's winner, Chad le Clos, and Hungary's Laszlo Czech. I think, I'm so sorry if I get your names wrong. I'm not good with names, right? Okay, the trio all came in with times of exactly 51.14 seconds. Now, the three silver medalists, right? They were all champions before. They have all won Olympian medal in one way or another. So Joseph Schooling not only beat Michael Phelps, he beat three champions all at one go, and all three of them held the second place at the same result of 51.14 seconds. How wonderful is this result? But do you know the price he has to pay? Joseph Schooling started swimming from 4, at the age of 4. And at 13, he moved to Florida to train with world-class coach Sergio Lopez. The training was far from home and family, right? Singapore and US, right? Those who are listening from USA, and sometimes I listen from people from USA, is what, 12 hours apart, right? And we are 12 hours ahead of the USA, right? And And in terms of flying, it takes about 20 hours to get to from Singapore to USA. The train was far from home and family, and it forced him to stand on his own 2 feet and make huge decisions about his life and future. And unlike his peers, he had to sacrifice things that others took for granted. And do you know that he actually went to for his training? He as a young boy, he woke up at 4 a.m. to ask his dad to start training, and he will wake up early morning every day to ask his dad to bring him to swimming pool. What are you doing at 4 a.m. or 6 a.m. even? Or 7 a.m. I'm not a morning person. If I wake up at 7, it's already a big deal, right? You ask me to wake up to do exercise. I don't think so. And he do day in and day out. And he has the courage to go for what he wants, despite all the difficulties of moving from far home and family. It's a very courageous thing to do. I never thought about it at moving, going from far from home is a courageous thing, because myself, I have went to UK to do my law degree on my own, and to me that's not a big thing and either. But a lot of people and share with me that they and a lot of my friends were saying that their parents, right, they said that they wouldn't let the children go on their own. I'm like, I'm already in my 20s, what's the big deal, right? But it's in many people's eyes, it is a big deal. And for me, in my case, because I only have money for enough for my first year, right, my tuition fee and my accommodation fee, and I just went ahead. I don't know where my money is going to come from. I was just like, oh, I'm going to get a part-time job and just study and somehow find my way bit by bit, step by step, right? So coming back to Joseph Schooling, right, it was really courageous for him to, at the age of 13, I went to UK on my own at the age of 24. He went to USA at the age of 13. Yes, there's some adults are taking care of him there, but imagine, age of 13, what were you doing? I knew I was just hanging around, playing around, messing about, right? And not doing my homework even. Can't even do that one thing that was entrusted to me, right? But so it's really unthinkable, and it's very hard to imagine at the age of 13 you went all the way so far away from your parents and from your family and friends, right? And I want to share something else. The next thing I want to share is actually courage comes in different shapes and forms, right? Let me share with you something. In our daily life, you can see courage every day in our daily life, in your life and in my life. If you open your eyes, you are open-minded enough, you will see the courage that you take for granted. So for example, right, interviews, it's so scary, right? But you still went ahead. Especially your first interview. It can, even now I was just thinking, oh, you know what? That day I was thinking to myself, hey, I should go for an interview just for the fun of it, right? Just to see what's going on in the marketplace now. But you know what? It really scares me, right? It does scare me, and in a way, because it's like, oh, I have to. I don't know what's going to happen and things like that. Remember, we talked about why one of the fear is the fear of losing control, right? Because loss of control. Because as an interviewee, I don't have control. The interviewer has control. That's why I prefer to interview people than in being interviewed, right? And other things like asking somebody out. Oh yes, when when you are teenagers, when you're young adults, or even actually it doesn't matter what age you are. The moment if you see someone you like and you want to ask the person out, is always something very scary. And if you have asked somebody out for your first date and it went on very well and now you're happily married, okay, maybe you are married, okay, congratulations, that was so courageous of you, right? And when you propose to someone and when the person say yes, both are just courageous. Can you imagine that, asking someone to marry you, and then the other person is courageous enough to say yes, because you're going to spend the rest of your life together. I don't know if that's not courage. I don't know what is, right? Becoming parents. Yes, some of you have chosen to make the choice that you want to become parents. I think that is one of the most courageous things to do, right? If you are a parent, I salute you, and it's just so amazing, because it's really for the rest of your life, right? And there's so many things, you don't know, especially your first child and all, and you never know. Even if you have 3 children, I'll go out in a big family. We have a family of 6, right? And I have 5 other older siblings, and each one of us is different. I have 7 nieces and nephews. They are different as well. Their spouses, their boyfriends, girlfriends are different as well. I have friends who are, it's just so different. My friends who are parents and they have children, right? Well, from 1 child to 4 children, or some even 5. And they say that all their children are different. And I can just salute you if you are a parent and you made the choice of becoming a parent. And I think that really, really takes courage, right? Because you absolutely have no idea. For your firstborn, you have no idea how to become a parent. For the rest of it, it's like you don't know what's going to happen, right? It takes courage, tremendous courage, right? And what about driving? Yes, right. I remember the first time I sit behind the driving wheels, I was so excited, yes. I was so scared at the same time. And when I passed the driving test, and the first time I was driving on the road as a licensed driver, it was so scary, right? But excited at the same time. So if you have passed the driving test and you have been driving, that is really the courage. And actually, every day driving on the road, it takes courage. For me, it's like I think I will just walk or public transport, right? And even though I have a driving license, I realized that I prefer to be driven around, right? And last one I want to share is that when you first take the plane, talk about taking the plane, it takes courage. For some of you, I know you are afraid of flying, but do you know, taking the plane itself, right? It takes courage. Right? How do you know, something so heavy just slip out into the air? I know we cannot travel at this point of time, but we will come back. Okay, traveling will come back, right? We're not going to let the pandemic, the disease, beat us down, right? And taking the plane itself needs courage. I remember there was a period of time I was actually afraid of flying, and it took me a lot of determination to continue to learn how to adapt, to learn how to fly. I'm not a pilot, right? To be able to board the plane without a panic attack, right? And it really does take courage, because how do you know the plane? Actually, you think about it, you have absolutely no control over the plane, what's going on, or the pilot, or whatsoever. We just happily, board on the plane, and then happily sleep and throughout the flight, and then we landed on our destination. How amazing is that? It's really courage to that. Can you imagine looking at the plane? Next time you look at the plane, and you will know what I mean, right? I'm going to share some. Right, we're going to share some how-to, right? Create some quick tips, because some of you will be asking like, oh, what are we going to do then? How do we have courage when we are scared and all? And how to be bold like the lion, right? Lion is the king of the jungle, right? So let's see. So first and foremost, acknowledge that fear will always be there. Yes, right? I have repeated this many times, and I mentioned in my other videos as well that courage is not about not having fear, but it's acting in spite of the fear, right? Now, and okay, so just let me backtrack a bit. So acknowledge that fear will always be there, right? So do you tell fear what to do, or fear tells you what to do? Right? Sorry, that's the second point, right? So tell yourself you are the boss of fear. Do you tell fear what to do, or fear tells you what to do? Right? Do you manage it, or does it manage you? Are you the master of fear, or a slave to fear? Right? And the third point is, remind yourself that courage is not the absence of fear, but to act in spite of fear. You in spite of fear, whereby you just don't look at the fear, look at what you are going for. So that's why it's so important to have to set your objective in front of you, set the prize in front of you, and just focus on it and go for it, right? Next is to draw courage from past experience. Yes, that's right. In the past, that's why I mentioned about some examples that we can draw from our daily life. Remember the previous slide? Right? Why? Because you can draw courage from there. Because at the end of the day, when you have courage to do all these things, when you realize courage is act in spite of fear, you learn that actually a lot of things you can go ahead and do it. Do your preparation, yes, do all your preparation, your research, but you know what? You can just go for it. Yeah? Act in spite of fear, right? Okay? and build on that, right? Build on past experience. Now, next is to step out, and courage will follow, right? Not wait for courage to come, then you step out. A lot of us are thinking this, right? Oh, I'll wait for myself to wait for courage to come. I'll wait when I'm courageous enough, then I will do it. But actually, it's not. It's just when you take the leap of faith, you take that one step. We always use Harrison Ford, right? In his Indiana Jones, right? In his movies, there's one particular scene whereby he has to step out of the cliff, right? There's no path, but the moment he stepped out, the path appeared. And it is just like that with courage. You need to step out, and then the courage is waiting for you, but you need to step out first, right? And another thing is that to ask, what if I make it, right? A lot of people think, what if I don't make it, right? And you need to start asking yourself, what if I make it, right? And start imagining all the good things that go with it, right? What if you start that business? What if you write that book? What if you bought that first property? And what if you would go for that job, that promotion that you have always wanted to? What if you make it, right? Start imagining all the good things that go with it. Now, one thing I learned how to do about courage is that physically you can help to build your courage and confidence is to take deep breaths and your shoulder back and your chin up. And somehow this physical posture will actually help you because physically, right, it brings you more oxygen, right? And then it will help you to be able to breathe properly and you can think better. Because otherwise, when you are scared, our body language go down, we have actually less oxygen. That's the scientific thing, the explanation in that. But psychologically, you just feel more confident, you feel more courageous when you sit up straight, take a deep breath. That always helped me. And shoulders back and chin up, and you'll find that, hey, you feel more courageous. And you know what? In the animal world, they do that. They will puff themselves up and then stand taller, make themselves look bigger, and it works. This is just the law of nature, right? Sometimes we use physical physics, right? Or Tony Robbins say this change of the state, right? To help yourself to have that confidence, and it does help, right? And last but not least is this very important one is to take baby steps on a daily basis. Now, the baby steps, right? It doesn't have to be relevant to what you are afraid of. It can be, it may not be. So, for example, if you want to write that book, there's a book inside you want to write. There's a business inside you want to start. Or you want to ask that girl out, right? And you can take baby steps. So you can, in terms of the relevant baby steps, bit by bit. So if you want to start a business, you start looking at what are the business, what are the skills you need, what are you start taking lessons and all, and you start, if they say you have to learn how to sell, you start selling something. And if you want to write a book, start baby steps, write down the contents page, for example. That always helped me, right? To start writing on the contents page, what are the main points I want to do. So it's step by step, baby steps. Right. Sometimes we don't need to take baby steps towards the goal that we want, right? The particular objective that we want to set, right? But you can take baby steps in terms of your daily life. For example, what I do is that I always set this challenge to people, right? And to say hello to 5 strangers, right? And sometimes we used to play this game with my peers, right? With all my what you call my accountability buddy and my in terms when we first start our business and all. So we say that, okay, we want to do something out of our comfort zone. So we started off doing this, say hi to strangers. So we started off like, oh, we're going to do 20. Oh, you know what? It's not as easy as it seems. Okay, it's easy, it's simple, and it's easy, right? But it takes a lot of courage to say hi to the strangers. And we thought 20 is a small number, and we realized 20 is a big number. So we bring down to 10 just to get us started. And then we realized 10 is still big, so we come down to 5. And 5 was a manageable number for us to start off to saying 5. So we do this project, this challenge, and we start doing that. Say hi to 5 strangers. Say hi to 5 strangers every day. And you know what? That challenge it seems so irrelevant to what we are going to do, right? But it built the courage inside us to go for whatever it is that we want to do, right? Even though we may not have the competence, we may not have the connection, we may not have everything, the 100% know-how that we need, and you can never have 100% anyway, but it gives us the courage to do the things that we always wanted to do. So if you don't know where to start with this simple challenge. Say hi to 5 strangers every day. You'll be surprised how you will be transformed after that, right? So these are some of the ways that you can be bold like the lion, right? I want to leave with you some of these takeaway quotes that I have that I live by, and the first one is to remember courage is like muscles. It can be built, and it is to be built. It's not one day suddenly. It's not like a jacket that you put on and take it off, right? It is like a muscle and it's to be built, right? And right, muscles it doesn't happen overnight. The second quote I want to leave with you is to treat courage like a habit. It can be cultivated. That's why I set you the challenge to say hi to 5 strangers every day. Just do that simple challenge. It will change your life. I guarantee you. Right? Okay. So, right, that's all I have for today. Right. I trust that you have learned at least one thing today, and put the comment box what have you learned, and you internalize the quick tips or the how-tos, and you will reach your destination at some point. Right. Many people have asked me, why am I speaking and doing training on the topic on people skills? It's like it falls in the same category like of telling people to eat more fruits and vegetables, right? Drink more water and do more exercise. People know these are good for them, yet they do not want to do it for many, many different reasons. It's because I firmly believe people skills is a very practical skill set. I know many of you are concerned about being replaced by technology and artificial intelligence. I totally believe that people skills is one skill set that will never be replaced by technology and AI. You can learn about coding, cybersecurity, but these are technical skills that will get obsolete and you will have to keep improving yourself in this area. Just think about it. The skills that you acquire 5 years ago, right? Not just technology, but technical skills that you acquire 5 years ago is probably obsolete by now. You have to pick up new skills again. Now, yes, technical skills are important, right? When I say technical skills, that means your actual product knowledge or whatever it is that you are doing, right? Yes, they are important. I'm not knocking them down. But behind every hardware, software, equipment, machines, even cameras, like now, there's a human being. That is what keeps me going. Because I know behind every camera, there is one person watching, learning, and needing this message. You have no idea how scared I am to talk to a camera, talk to a machine. I'm used to talking in front of hundreds and thousands of people. It doesn't scare me. But you know what? You have difficulty. I was just telling someone it took me 6 months to overcome the mental block to talk to a machine, to talk to into the camera. Right? Because I keep telling myself there's a human being behind the camera listening to what I have to say, right? And they do need this, and I know I will make a change, right? It doesn't matter what business or what industry are you in, you are always dealing with people. So you might as well start learning how to deal with people. And the first person to start with is with yourself. So like, share, follow us in this journey of improving yourself, and we'll see. So we have our this Facebook page, and we also have our YouTube channel. So like, share, follow, subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video. Bye.